All right. Hello, Home Service Pros. Welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast, episode number 126. Today we have Chris Henningsen on board today at our Gator Garage Doors out of Austin, Texas. I'm killing it out there. Some 1,200 reviews on Google and Yelp, 5-star rating. So,
welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast for Contractors. Get actionable advice and tactics on how to grow your home service company. Plus interviews with industry experts dropping value bombs in marketing, sales, and operations. And now, let's power up your home service biz with your host, Mark Ambrose of Battle Plan Marketing.
welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you taking the time to share some expertise out there with the audience. So let's dive in. Tell us what you do, who you do for, where you do it.
My name's Chris Henningsen, and I own Gator Garage Door Repair, and we're just outside of Austin, Texas. And been in business for going on about 8 years. This July will be 8 years. We do garage door repair and installation for both residential and the commercial space. And yeah, we've been doing okay.
Nice. I like to hear it. Do you prefer the residential or the commercial side, or don't care, you equally balance?
So we do 90% residential, 10% commercial, just because the commercial side requires a lot more intervention from OSHA, way more safety related stuff going on. And the skill set is a lot higher than what is needed for the residential side of things. So it is a little bit more difficult. That being said, the barrier to entry, we don't have as much competition on the commercial side because the residential side is easier for folks to do. So that helps. So we've kept it that way on purpose. We don't market the commercial side. We just, people ask. And we're capable of doing it. So we do it on a small scale.
I see. Do you have to pull permits for commercial?
No, that's the strange thing about commercial. The state of Texas doesn't require any sort of licensing to do this. And if you saw some of the doors that get installed, like airplane hangar doors that are 40 feet wide and 20 feet tall, you would think that you would have to pull a permit or be licensed, but no, you do not.
Wow. It's the open state of Texas.
Whole state. Now, the other state, I kind of wish, and not that I like a lot of, I don't want Big Brother looking over my shoulder all the time, but I do believe it would probably be a good move to require some sort of, at least a contractor's license to do some of this work that we do.
Yeah, especially on the commercial side where some of that stuff is heavy duty equipment and can cause some serious damage.
Exactly.
So I see you have, 2 or 3 locations in the Austin area, or?
We have 2 locations right now. We have our main facility in Round Rock, which is where our day-to-day operations are run from out of this. And that's where I'm at now. And it's where I office out of. And then our second location is about 35 miles away. And it's more of a showroom. It gives us a second presence, but also gives us a place to be able to take customers to show them the different options and let them kind of do, touchy feel. They can get their hands on some samples and see the colors in person. Sometimes these little color swatches that we have when we go out to consult on new doors, especially when some of the new doors are, $10,000, $15,000, they want to make sure they know what they're getting before it arrives. So that does help.
I like it. Yeah, and you do serve that high-end upscale market, it looks like, with glass doors, beautiful wood doors. Is that showroom located strategically near like upscale neighborhoods that you service a lot, or?
It's funny you say that. Yes, it is. It's more of an affluent area. In fact, I think I read somewhere when I was getting ready to do a direct mail piece that zip code that's pretty close to that area is the 8th most affluent zip code in Texas, for whatever that's worth. So
nice.
Yes, that 620 stretch of road tends to have more affluent people up and down. So yeah.
That's interesting. And do you find most of those, like you say, these are 5-figure doors or whatever, do you find most of those clients coming to the showroom to inspect and look at their options and such?
What's funny is the showroom's only been operational for maybe a year and a half. And what's funny is all these years, there's never been a huge demand. We've lost some customers by not having a showroom, but very few. Our goal is to go after, we would like to do more higher end doors. So we've been targeting like architectural firms and designers and so on and so forth, just because it's fun to do. It's fun to do the really nice doors and show them off on the website and in some of our marketing pieces. And the guys, the installers like an occasional high-end door as well. It's just fun to do. So, but no, to answer your question, we haven't had, it's funny. And in fact, it's almost like as soon as we put the showroom up, the need almost disappeared. I'm sure, there are some customers that may be on the fence where it helps, but we'll bring out, a 2-foot by 2-foot sample if it's needed in the color that the customer's looking for. And that together with just our knowledge of the industry on the different doors and the different types of materials and quality and brochures, usually that's enough. 99% of the time that's enough. And then the other 1% like to come in to see the product and talk some more about it. So
gotcha. And maybe you use the showroom for like video training and stuff like that, or video, tie it to YouTube so they can see it without leaving their home, maybe.
Well, and of course, the other reason for this too, is that it does give us a location and address in a more upscale area to get reviews for and target that clientele as well. So.
Exactly. So another Google Maps location, et cetera.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. And that's a good range from your original location, about 35 miles. So you're just out of the reach of Google Maps, or beyond it probably a little bit from your current location. So you get to show up in 2 spots, maybe more.
Exactly. I don't know exactly what the cutoff is for Google, but if you get too close, they'll shut down one of the 2 addresses. Sometimes without even...
Yeah. It just depends on how much competition is in neighboring towns or whether you can stick in there or not. Usually you lose it as soon as you get, a few miles away from your location. But still, pretty wise, pretty smart. So let's talk about, do you do anything with the rest of the garage? Epoxy floors, cabinets, any of that? You stay away and just focus on the doors?
We just focus on the doors. We do get asked from time to time, and we'll refer people. There may be a time when we get involved with that. But to be honest with you, with the population growth that Austin has and all the surrounding towns, I know we're over 2 million people now. I think I'd like to reach a certain percentage of the market share before we start to go outside of what I call our swim lane, which is really just residential, right? Residential garage doors and garage door openers. We're capable of doing just about anything. We've got one guy on staff that's pretty much a carpenter. And the epoxy stuff and the cabinets, they're quite different from garage doors and garage door openers. And so if I do decide to start that, I would probably make it an entirely separate division of the company.
I see. I like how you focus on your one thing and then maybe come back to it later when you have, good saturation point and a great customer list that's ready for those additional services maybe later on.
Exactly. As our customer, as you're kind of alluding to, as our customer list, our database of customers starts to grow even beyond where it's at today, we'll be able to remarket to that customer base with anything that we want to take on in the future. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Do you stay connected to your existing customers through newsletters or anything? What kind of marketing do you do to past customers?
So we do. In fact, we just implemented a new technology that integrates with our CRM. We use a CRM called Service Titan, and
nice.
pretty much runs the entire company. And we're implementing right now. We're in the process of implementing a new technology that automates a lot of reminders and estimate reminders and follow-ups and asking for reviews, and it can do just about anything. One of the things coming out in another month or so are email templates. So we've done it in the past, but we kind of let it slide for a little bit. But yes, I tell any business owner that one of the most important things and cheapest things you can do is to keep in touch with your old customers. You wouldn't think so. When I first got into the industry about 8 years ago, I used to say, I used to look and I thought a lot about repeat business. And I thought, well, if I do my job right, I may never see these customers again. I was so wrong. I would tell you that probably, I don't know the number off the top of my head right now, but a large percentage of our business are repeat customers.
Nice.
Very large. So that's a tribute to our business processes and hopefully our team here and their good work. But it lets you know that maybe we go out and we do a repair on the door and now their opener fails down the road. And now we got to go out and do that. Or maybe they move homes. They move to a different home and now they need some repairs done there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Way less expensive to stay connected and nurture that customer for life.
For sure.
Absolutely. Even on a big thing. So that's, you're like a perfect example. You would think a garage door, I'm not going to see that client again for years, maybe ever. But like you say, repairs come up, new openers come up, or they move and you certainly want a piece of their new house, right? That could be new doors all across the board, new openers. So yeah, there's no business that doesn't benefit from staying connected. Absolutely. So you love the CRM. Did you start out with Service Titan or?
No, we started with another CRM. And I think we went to Service Titan in about right between years 3 and 4 when we were in business. Service Titan was really built for the HVAC, more of the HVAC plumbing industry. But we've been able to, with Service Titan's help and some bigger garage door companies' input, been able to make Service Titan work for us. It's a lot of work because it can do just about anything you want, but it does require a lot of attention. That's why when you first go to sign up, they'll tell you if you don't have at least 3 office staff and 5 technicians, they don't recommend it. And I see why. It really does it almost requires someone full time to keep up with everything.
Yeah, it's an awesome program, but it does indeed. It's going to take you, 6 months to a year to fully get that thing up and running really and know all the ins and outs. Do you use the Marketing Pro section of it also, or?
We don't. Actually, that's where this new software that we were implementing, it's called Chirp, CHIIRP. It does a lot of what Marketing Pro does or can do. And on top of that, it does text messaging as well as it has a few other features. Even for folks that are using Marketing Pro, we'll go ahead and sign up with Chirp just for the few additional features that are like ringless voicemail and text messaging. Text is certainly the way to go if you can get people to opt in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. In fact, the other day, someone was mentioning that their dispatch board was almost completely clear of any jobs for like the next week, because this is shoulder season for most service companies right now with the moderate temperatures. It's not cold, it's not hot, and so especially for HVAC companies, they don't want their techs sitting idle, so they got to figure out how to. This is where they usually start marketing to their database of customers. But on top of that, they can send these text messages or ringless voicemail. A gal said she did one, and in 24 hours, her dispatch board was completely full for the next week.
Yeah, nice. I love that. Yeah, we're in that world also. Speed to lead, automated messaging. It's incredibly vital, actually. If you respond to that lead within 1 minute, I forget the exact numbers, you have close to a 200% better chance of getting that business than if you respond within 5. Wow. If you take more than 5 minutes, you've lost 80% of the leads.
Yep.
So, we spend a fortune. Do you do ads, PPC, Yelp, Angie's, all that good stuff?
We've tried pay-per-click, not had great success with it, only because our average ticket's not huge. And I don't know if this would come as a surprise or not, but at least in our market, the garage door industry is highly competitive. I mean, especially as you get closer to some pretty, like Memorial Day and holidays, just before that, couple days leading up to it, you might spend $60, $70 a click for the word, right, for the search term, garage door repair Austin. And then if it takes 2 to 3 clicks to acquire the customer, it's just not a position I want to be in. I know some companies will do it just to keep their technicians busy, especially bigger shops. But we're having success. To be honest with you, I put most of our eggs in one basket when it comes to advertising. We still do quite a bit of different types of advertising, but the bulk of our money is being spent right now on radio.
Oh, good for you. That's branding too. So you get some SEO benefits on that. People searching your name on Google will help your website rank better too.
Yeah. And so the idea would be when we do get back to PPC, we'll just be bidding on our own name.
I like it.
Because we've already seen the searches for our name skyrocket.
Yeah.
And the people that we use for our radio, the agency that we use, they're really well known. I mean, you don't hear about them talk much out in the open, but once you learn a lot about these very successful home service companies that are being sold or, gobbled up by acquisitions, an acquisition to a bigger company, you find out about these guys and how they play, the vital role they played. And you hear them, like companies like Gettle and Radiant Plumbing all use these guys. And so they say that around that the buildup to receiving more and more leads from radio, it's kind of like a hockey stick. And they say that first 8 to 9 months, you're not going to see too much, but around months 9, 10, 11, you should see it start to really take off. And right now we're in month 8 and we're starting to see it. More and more customers are telling our techs every day that just this morning I took a call and he went out of his way to tell us that he heard us on the radio. And our ads are pretty fun. And so people will comment. And like one of the ads has my wife duct taping me to the garage door because we're testing the lifespan of the springs because we sell high cycle springs. And that's kind of one of the things that separates us from our competitors is that you might pay a little bit more for our springs, but you're probably never going to replace them again. And so most of our commercials are pretty fun and people will call in just to comment on the commercials. So, which is great. That's what we want. We want people to feel like they know us, trust us, and then the buying decision should be a lot easier.
I like it. Did a radio company itself help you with the production of the commercial, or?
It's a company called Wizard of Ads.
Oh,
yeah, and they actually have a Wizard. They call it a Wizard Academy out here. Apparently, the campus is just beautiful. I haven't been invited yet, and I'm not sure why. I use deodorant, but they haven't invited me yet. So I'm hoping I get to go one day here soon because there's a whole history there, and they have a whiskey tasting room and all sorts of stuff. So
nice.
Yeah, they're really good at what they do. I mean, this is what they do. These people that I work with have been in radio for a very, very long time. In fact, the person that negotiates the radio ads or airtime, he's been doing this. Him himself has probably set a record for money spent on ads over the years and he's older, so he's been doing this for a very long time. And then there's a creative person. So I really work with 2 or 3 people. And then the creative person is just that. He gets us talking about something and he'll listen and start taking notes. And before long, a couple of days later, you receive this ad and you're just blown away. You're like, how the heck did you come up with that?
That's great. Yeah, it needs to be memorable, right? And funny is good. So that's awesome. Are you looking for like straight phone calls from there, or any like free guides you're giving away, or?
No, we don't do any kind of, to be honest with you, so far we don't do any kind of, there's no promotional stuff. We just talk about our products. Really this is all about getting people it really is all about getting people to like us, right? To like us, to know about us, to feel like they know who we are. We do talk about our products, like we'll talk, obviously the springs, we make it fun, but they now know, after we run that radio ad, we saw a spike in spring sales, people calling in just because they want the springs that were attached to the door, the same door that Chris was attached to. So, or rollers. We did one for Valentine's Day. We did 12 long stem rollers, right? The rollers everything we use here is equivalent to or much better than what comes standard on a garage door. So that's why I say, literally, other than an ongoing tune-up, if we do our job right and the customer chooses, we always give multiple options when we go do a repair, ranging from a full rebuild down to just a basic repair, depending on the customer situation. They might be selling the home tomorrow. We run into that quite a bit, actually. And they don't want to spend a lot. They just want to get the door operational for the next couple of weeks. And so they may, it just depends. But at the end of the day, We give customers at least two to three options. They choose and we get to work. And usually they're pretty happy about it.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. I like how you have the systems dialed in there too. What do you think is one of the 2 or 3 most important ingredients to grow in the business through the years, Chris?
Consistency. And the number one thing is good people, right? Good people. I know this is a cliche and you hear it a lot, or you might hear it a lot, but I can train just about anybody to install a garage door or garage door opener as long as they have some skills. But I can't, it's much harder to train on soft skills. It's much harder to train somebody to have good morals. It's much harder to train. I mean, if mom and dad didn't do a good job, I doubt I'm going to do a very good job, So right. It's so critical. It's one of the things, there's a book out there called, Finding Your Why. For me, and I believe my wife too, because this isn't the first businesses we've owned. We've owned businesses before, and I've been self-employed most of my life. But I get way more satisfaction about hearing one of my technicians getting ready to put a down payment on a home or driving a newer vehicle into the parking lot because he was able to afford a nice new truck or whatever the case is. Because I know if they're successful, we're going to be successful.
Right.
And when I read the reviews, the 1,300 or 1,400 reviews we have out there now, whatever it is, it really, I take a lot of pride in the reviews where they leave like 4 or 5 sentences and they really get detailed about just how great the service was from the time they picked up to the phone to the time the technician left. To me, that's what it's all about. And if you're not hiring good people, you're not going to see those reviews. And it's just not going to be a fun business to run either. I mean, you might make some money. You're going to have a huge amount of turnover. When we've had our fair share of turnover, don't get me wrong. But we pay really well, way above normal. We provide benefits, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything. I've still got a lot to learn. So.
Oh, we all do. Absolutely. Oh, you're crushing it though, Chris. So, let's talk about that. Your 1,200, 1,300, whatever it is, reviews, 5 stars. Mm-hmm. Not even 4.9, not even the occasional, grumpy little old bastard out there. So that speaks to your training right there. So let's talk about your training sessions, how you bring somebody on. Do you prefer somebody who's in the garage business or just a quality individual you can train up?
Well, to be honest with you, at first I think it depends on where you're at in your business. If you're just starting out and it's just you're probably going to need somebody else that's experienced. You're not going to, you could try to train somebody up, but the fact is you might need somebody experienced to hit the ground running right away. And then maybe if you've got that cushion, you can train somebody. But at this point, we're going on 8 years. I prefer people that do not come from our industry. I prefer to train them. And the reason why is because this industry is very fragmented and you've got some really, they call them bad bobs, right? Out there ripping off the general public, running deceptive ads on, they call it Google LSA or Google Guaranteed or Google Maps listings. Right. They get them in. And the sad thing is they typically prey on the elderly. And so I don't want any part of that. I don't want someone that, if you're somebody and I find out you worked for one of those places for longer than a few months, if it took you more than a few months to realize you're ripping people off, well, then you're probably not going to work. You're probably not going to last here very long.
Yeah.
That being said, I do want people that are very driven and want to make money because we're set up for that, but we're not ever going to take advantage of anyone. And so as far as training goes, I prefer to bring him in. We have a guy in training right now. So when he first started, we'll take him in. I'll show him some very, very high level videos intermixed with some shadowing of a more experienced technician, because I found that if you try to throw them into just all these videos and reading, they're not only going to retain so much, and they're really going to probably get burnt out pretty quick. So I like to throw that in there with some actual hands-on. Yeah. And so I find that works pretty well. We actually have built in our warehouse now, because we just moved into this warehouse about 4 months ago. We've actually got a kind of a garage facade. The jams and the header and everything are out there, and full roof. And we're going to, starting this Friday will be our first install. So we'll get together, the whole team will get together, and we're going to actually create a training video for garage door installs and teach everybody how we want it done. So there's no question down the road, hey, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to put this here or what to do over here. No, there'll be no question. And so that'll be something that while these guys are onboarding, they'll start watching at some point during their onboarding phase so that we can get everybody doing everything the same way consistently.
Nice. I like it. Otherwise, they mostly train in the field with one of your qualified techs already.
Right. And if you're familiar with the term tribal knowledge, then it just becomes tribal knowledge, right? So I'm hoping that, and then when they come back 6 months later and I'm like, well, why did you do it that way? Well, no one ever showed me that. And then I'm just expecting them to know, but I don't have any documentation showing that, yes, we indeed covered that. So I think that's why it's so important that you do both in the field and in-house training so that you can document everything. And also too, when they're inside here, there's obviously a lot less pressure on them. They can make mistakes and it's not going to hurt anybody. So
right. I like that.
We do have some really good technicians that I know I can pair a new person up with, and they're very patient. And so it works. It's worked well for us so far.
Nice. Do you give guys a dedicated area or you're just dispatching jobs as they come in? Best makes sense.
We try to segment them. The problem is we have varying skill sets. So one job may require a larger skill set, a more in-depth skill set than maybe someone else has. And so unfortunately, there are times where we have to have somebody travel all the way from, Georgetown, which is north of Austin, all the way down to south of Austin, and then back up to Round Rock. And so I know that doesn't make anybody happy. And from what I understand, that's one of the number one reasons technicians quit is because of too much drive time. They're not out there they want to be making money and working, and you have them driving all over town. So it's in everybody's best interest, especially the companies, to make sure that we keep what they call windshield time down to a minimum. And we work diligently on that. In fact, every night I try to look at the dispatch board to make sure that that's the case. So
yeah. So a lot more cross training and just trying to do the best you can at dispatching. Yeah, traffic's getting worse and worse everywhere. So, guys are stuck in traffic and it's costing money, right? So time is money.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I like that you brought, the guys can install right there in your facility over and over and over again, make training videos and such, spring repairs, all that stuff, train them on everything right there.
You'd be surprised how I'm in a group of 50 business owners and we talk every week. It's like a mastermind group. And you'd be surprised how few companies actually produce their own training videos. Even companies that are in the 7, 8, 10, 12, $15 million range. I find that odd, but we don't want to be one of those companies. So we're going to make sure.
You're at the mercy of randomness. Who knows? Yeah. Don't want any part of that. Speaking of, let's talk like SOPs. Do you build into ServiceTitan? Do you guys have like checklists that they go through on certain jobs and, so that they're doing the things you want them to do? Or
we sure do. We actually have a checklist for quite a bit, like whether we're out selling, consulting on a new door or we're doing a repair, it'll automatically prompt the salesperson or the technician to utilize that checklist.
Nice.
And the checklist is good for everyone. It's especially the homeowner. We color code it. And so if they see a red mark next to something, they know it's probably safety related and that we need to, there really is we're going to have to address that during that call. Whereas something maybe that's in yellow, maybe something like let's say a set of rollers, right? So they may not absolutely have to be replaced, but they're getting older. They may have some dirt and grime in them. And so it's probably a good idea to replace them, but that would be something that would be marked in yellow. And we just let the customer know, and that we go down the checklist and we present the checklist and we make our quotes according to the checklist, and they pick and choose what they want to do, sign off, and we get to work.
Nice. And are those installed in ServiceTitan for you, Chris?
They sure are. Yeah, that's one of the things that's really powerful about ServiceTitan is when it comes to reporting, where they call those forms, we can do just about anything we want in ServiceTitan.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And then at the end of that, there's what, a good, better, best kind of presentation, depending on the job?
Yeah, I think we've labeled it all kinds of stuff. I work with somebody whose dad owns Parker and Sons in Arizona. I think it's the largest privately held service company in the United States now, over 250 million.
Wow.
And
Wow.
we every month a bunch of business owners get together, and his son speaks, and his son's basically a genius when it comes to this stuff. And he said, I've been through just about everything you can call these options: good, better, best, gold, silver, platinum, you name it. And he goes, what I think makes the most sense is here's what you must do, here's what you should do, and here's what I would do if my mom owned this house or if my grandma owned this house.
I like it.
Yeah, and so
I like it.
I think it really resonates with people, and we're thinking about actually using the same terminology. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Must do, should do. Here's what I would do if you were my mom.
Right. I think people can understand, right? So
Yeah. Puts it in more humanity terms. I like it.
Yeah.
Hold on to that one. What's the name of that company you say is the largest service company?
Parker and Sons. And here's the crazy part. They do 250 million. I think they're based out of Phoenix, and they only have an 8% market share. So they could still do.
What industry?
HVAC.
HVAC.
Yep.
Yeah, because Gettel's right there, right? He's in Phoenix. Well, it's a world of abundance, Chris, right? So there's plenty of business out there for all of us out there. I'm not in your world. I'm in the marketing world, but there's plenty of business there too.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, I don't know why everybody's so secretive and everything. It's just, there you are, like the largest HVAC company in the country, and they got, what'd you say, 8% market share, which is pretty big.
Yes. Yeah. When you start looking at the population, yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. Most guys would kill for 6% market share in any industry, right?
Yeah. His son told me what they spend on marketing, and they only spend 6% or something like that of revenue, but it's still insane.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be big dollars.
Yeah. A year, and it's 6%. It's a large chunk of money.
Yeah. Well, you better believe they're marketing to their old clients as well.
Oh,
Speaking of HVAC, so they're big with annual maintenance agreements, annual service agreements. Although I did learn the other lesson. So Service Titan guy, gosh, am I going to do this to you again, Tom? No, I'm not. Tom Howard. Sorry, Tom. VP of Customer Experience over at Service Titan, but also owns 6 or half a dozen service companies, 50, 60, $70 million, killing it over there. And he was suggesting that annual service agreements kind of get in his way, actually, if they carry over into the springtime, now they become a problem. They're in his way of high dollar service calls and potential sales. And I've racked my brain trying to think of some other industries where that might apply, where you're coming into a big season and you don't want those service calls. But so does it apply to you at all, Chris? Do you do maintenance agreements, and do they become a problem?
In fact, it's funny. The garage door industry is like the little brother of home services, right? We are so far, at least if you go back about 5 years ago, we are so far behind where HVAC and plumbing and electrical was at the time. We're finally catching up. We're still not there yet. You just have a lot of old school owners who believe you should only charge so much. I have given the maintenance agreement idea. I am thinking about implementing it. The thing about that I've heard from a number of business owners is that it's not all that hard to get people to sign up for the agreements if you can give them some sort of incentive to sign up. What's harder is maintaining them, right? Is once you get to, 5, 10, 15, $20,000 home service agreements or service agreements, then you've got to, follow up on those and make sure you're getting to them. And then the billing, just the administration of those agreements can be quite a bit if you don't have a real good process for how to handle them. So we are going to probably dip our toes in here soon, but I want to make sure I have a good handle on that before we do.
Yeah, it can definitely become a tiger if you let it.
Yeah.
I do. Service Titan definitely can handle it all within the software. So it is there, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's just coming out of the gate, Chris? Any service business, they're a great tech and doing great at what they're killer at what they do. And now I want to, I'm going to jump out and do it on my own, make more money. Any advice for those guys or girls out there?
I had 3 words: read, and read some more. Start listening to audiobooks now. All your dead time when you're traveling, don't look at it as, you're not getting anything done. Start learning. You could sign up for, start listening to people like Tommy Mello. He has got a phenomenal podcast. He'll give you some book recommendations. Just read a lot. That way, some of these things don't come as a surprise to you. Anybody that's been a tech for a while should have some idea of what it takes to get a business started. But I'll give you one. We had a technician who came in and was pretty bright. I'd done a lot to help this guy out because he didn't have the best driving record. He had been in oil and gas and gotten himself into some trouble with some speeding tickets. So I helped him out. And he thought he was going to, after 6 months of being here, he knew everything there was to know about business and garage doors and everything. So he's going to go and start his own business. Well, that lasted about 4 months until he came and said, Chris, hiring again? Would you take me back? And some other things happened. And so I didn't take him back, but there's a lot more. 6 months is nothing in terms of trying to learn any trick. I tell people that you can probably learn 50, 60% of what's required as a tech, at least on the residential side, in 6 months, but it's the other 40% that takes years. And so, but in terms of starting out, I would say just work your butt off. It's a lot of work. You'll probably want to take on just about anything you can take on, including free tune-ups just to get your sticker on a wall.
Right.
And then the word will start to spread, and it takes time. But if you're honest and you do good work, people will start referring you, and you will start to see the fruits of your labor. But it does take time.
Yeah, that's good advice. And if you do great work, eventually you'll get business referred. But it's all those other things of running a business that if you don't already know, like you said, read. Tommy Mello, his podcast is Home Service Expert. He is absolutely awesome. I have no idea how big Tommy is. I'm hoping he's coming on the show next month. He's definitely doing 150 million or more, probably. And he gets some awesome people on that podcast. So, some big brains, some great business people with some good advice and some great books. Any book or two that you recommend, Chris?
And real quick, though, on the podcast thing, one of the things, what I do is I just listen to a bunch of different podcasts, business related, marketing related. In my opinion, if you can just pick up one gold nugget from that podcast or that book, that's where it's at. And then you combine all those nuggets over the course of a couple of years, and now you're probably a lot more ready to go into business for yourself. In terms of books, or
podcasts or people to follow,
Yeah.
So you found a book or two?
Yeah, so we've got, so I'm always listening to different podcasts and books. I'll listen to audiobooks. I've gotten to the point now where I won't even leave my driveway without starting up some sort of podcast or something. So
nice.
In terms of books, here's what I got right now. I'm listening to a book called They Ask You Answer. And it's
nice.
By a guy named Marcus Sheridan, and I highly recommend it. It may completely change the way you think about your website and how powerful it can be. It's all about creating useful content. Basically, he says the company that produces the most content that customers are looking for will be the company that will eventually win out. You're wanting to answer, so you should go online and look for the questions that customers are asking and then answer those questions on your website. And he goes as far as to say, you should actually start listing your prices on your website.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I know in our industry, that's you don't see very many people doing that at all. I would say probably less than 0.5% maybe of people. I only know of two companies that actually do it. But the person who wrote the book started with a fiberglass swimming pool company. And so his whole thing was to disrupt the swimming pool market with fiberglass pools, and they certainly did. And so that's just one book. Some others might be the email.
Well, that's really good, and that's really important there. A lot of SEO, content marketing.
Yeah. So obviously the E-Myth Revisited is another one. I think there's one that they wrote too that the owner of Gettle helped write too for HVAC that I know a lot of people highly recommend as well. But yeah, there's a slew of books. I could go on and on when it comes to books, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. So that was recommended by somebody recently too. So the E-Myth was rewritten by, I forget his name, the owner of Gettle, correct?
Michael Gerber, and then wrote the initial E-Myth, and then what's his name? The owner of Gettle, Ken Goodrich, and the owner
Ken Goodrich.
Michael Gerber got together and they wrote one related to HVAC, I believe. I have not read it, but it's on my list of books to read in the next couple months. So
yeah, somebody recently did recommend that book, and so likewise, it's on my list. The E-Myth, of course, is a classic out there, all about systems. Why can you go into a chain hotel? I can't remember, Four Seasons. He gives an example of some high-end hotel, and the president's not there, CEO is not there. How can they run great systems and great customer care without the owner being there? So it's all about using systems to get yourself out of your business and managing it instead of being inside of it. So 2 great books right there. Yeah, like it a lot. They ask you answer. So really important for SEO, right? For your website, and easier today with OpenAI and ChatGPT to create some content. I will say be careful on web page content, using AI for web page content, right? There is Google likes and doesn't like AI content. So you just want to, and you want to be careful of the content that AI spits out. So you want to use it to guide you, but then, put your human touch in there. But with it, you can certainly create content at a much faster pace nowadays. And so what are the 10 FAQs about, garage door springs? Make those articles. What are the 10 FAQs about glass garage doors, wooden garage doors, so on and so forth?
Right.
So good advice. What inspires you? What's your end game, Chris? Are you looking to sell or unsure, or, do you have a game plan in mind for the end?
Well, so I have 3 kids, and one of them just returned, was in the Navy, and just got done with her stint where she was stationed over in Guam most of the time. She's come to work for us. The thought was it would just be temporary until she figured out what she wanted to do now that she's no longer in the Navy. So we'll see. If she's not wanting to take it over at some point, then the end goal would be to sell, probably within 5 to 10 years from now.
Nice. Well, thank her for her service. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so pass it on to the next generation or sell it if it's not something that they want to do.
I think I'm like a lot of parents, and I kind of want them to pursue their own dreams and aspirations and not just want to get into this because good old dad and mom are involved. They see the struggles firsthand, so I'm not sure they'll want to be involved or not. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, that struggle exists everywhere, right? But you're right. Let them follow their bliss. And if it happens to align, then that's beautiful. If not, then, hopefully they've got the means to go out and pursue their own dreams.
Exactly.
What means the most to you to run the business today, Chris? You get out of bed, put your feet on the floor. What excites you about today?
I still feel like we just started the business sometimes, just because in the early stages, we did have some pretty decent growth. Like I think in 2021, I think we had about 83% growth. And then last year, I don't know the exact number, probably, I think it was like 40 or 50% growth. So that's pretty decent growth. Not so much. We're still small, so I would consider us small. And so not the kind of growth I wanted. But right now, this year, we're on track. If things continue the way they are, we may very well grow above 80%. So
nice.
Yeah. So, I'm just a very competitive person. And so I just I look at our numbers on a regular basis, and I just want to see those numbers continue to climb. And more than anything, I want to see our net profit, climb. I think there's a couple of cliches out there, like I think, what is it? Revenue is for vanity, profit is for sanity kind of idea. And so I really believe in that. You often see these guys on Facebook talking about, I'm going to do, 50 million this year. Well, did you know there's data on the garage door industry that I got about a year or two ago from someone who was the president of the International Door Association. And he told me the average net margin in the garage door industry for business owners is 3.5%.
Wow.
I don't know about you, but I'm not putting in this kind of work and doing all this for 3.5%. And I think that's part of what's holding this industry back, is that you've got all these old school people in this industry still that believe that that's where it should be, because shame on you if you charge a customer, $400 or $500 to go out and change springs when, somebody else could do it for $300. Well, I'm in a 6,600 square foot building. We have wrapped trucks. I think we have the best humans. Look, when I talked about those options and I said, what would you do if your mom owned the home? Well, I can honestly talk to any of our customers, and I can tell them confidently that you can trust any of our people inside your home at any point. And I truly believe that. I wouldn't be hiring these people. I certainly wouldn't be keeping them if I didn't feel that way.
Right.
And so that, in terms of what keeps me motivated, like I said, it's the competitive nature in me. I want to see our numbers. I have a number, I'd like in terms of revenue, I'd like to get to 10 million plus a year with a net profit of at least 20%.
Yep.
And maybe possibly move into a different area. When being positioned in Austin, it wouldn't be that big of a leap for me to go move down into San Marcos and then move down into the San Antonio region, or even go north into Waco. And with the radio ads, a couple of stations we play on, they already reach pretty far. And so we already are seeing some of the outlying areas starting to call us. And so I knew when we started the radio ads that I was going to have to loosen my belt, so to speak, in terms of our service area, and start being willing to go out a little bit further, which also would mean growth for us. And then hopefully we get enough business in these new areas where we can maybe keep a technician in that one area all day, if they're far enough out, and that way they don't have as much windshield time. But that's the goal. But getting there is the tough part. So
yeah, getting there is the tough part. Does your radio brokerage, do they handle nationwide or your whole state, or did they have the ability to help you expand out there?
Oh, for sure. If we wanted to, yeah. I haven't gotten, I'm sure probably for confidentiality reasons, we don't talk a whole lot about who else they work with. But yeah, I mean, if you're working, I know that the Wizard of Ads at some point I believe they were working with Gettle. So that tells you that they're definitely capable of working outside of just one state. I would imagine they could, go nationwide if that's what you wanted to do. So
nationwide, probably. Yeah. And Gettle's got to be in at least the Southwest, right? Most of the states.
Yeah. I know they opened up in San Antonio a while back, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago or something like that. And so I know they're in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good for him. He's growing. Hey, I did see one thing on your website I want to touch on for the listeners. So I saw you guys are marketing to real estate agents, and I love that. I love going after sell to many instead of one, right? So, you can make that one relationship, and now you've got them feeding you clients or property managers. Maybe it was on your site that I saw. So can you speak to that a little bit? Is that a successful venture for you guys, or?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think it can be, but you have to be willing to fire them, right? If it doesn't fit your business model very well. And unfortunately, a lot of property management companies they're not going to fit our mold. Typically what we find is that these property management companies will have already worked with these, they call them chuck in the trucks, maybe 1-2 person operation, where they just can't get to them very quickly, or they're really cheap, right? We'll come out and we'll get your whole door working for $100, but then they're not available for 2-3 weeks. Or where are they at when what the work they did, there's a warranty needed on the work they did. And so we're priced, we're not the cheapest and we're not the most expensive. And what we find is for most property management companies, they have to have been through some of those cheap guys and
I see.
felt a little bit of pain from what it feels like not to have great service. And then once they get to us,
Right.
they see that we're a little more expensive, but we have probably a 90, I haven't looked in a while, but it's above a 95% rate in terms of showing up. We book all appointments in a 2-hour window, and we're above 95% in terms of showing up during that 2-hour window. And sometimes we'll call to tell them we're ahead of schedule. Every once in a while, we lag behind, depends, but by and large, we arrive during that window almost every time. And so there's a lot to be said for dependability and just being around, right? Like I was telling you earlier, this industry is very fragmented. So there's no licensing or anything. So you got a lot of people who think they know how to fix garage doors, and they kind of come into the industry for a little bit and then they leave. And then if these property management companies were using somebody like that, now they got to find someone else. And so we're kind of like that steady Eddie. We'll be here. We've been here for a while. We're going to be here for the future. And you can depend on us to do it right. And if we get it wrong, we'll be back. I make it a number one priority. Recalls, where that's a recall, in my definition, is some sort of faulty work on our part. If that's the case, it moves up the dispatch board to the number one position. We try to get back out as fast as possible because it's not good for the customer or us to let that linger. But yes, we have a handful of property management companies we work with, and they typically give us it's an acronym, NDE, not to exceed amount, right? So that we have it already set up where we know, hey, they've got software they use to run the company. And so they'll say, hey, we need this door repaired. And they've already talked to the owner of the property, and they know we have, 500, 700, 800. We have one customer that tells us we have up to $1,000 to fix whatever problem it is, and just fix it and then send them the invoice.
Nice.
We are very aware of what could happen with that amount of leniency. So we try not to take advantage of it. We have good open communication. They want their stuff done a certain way and working properly, and that works. So at this point, though, if we were to take on a new property management company and they weren't willing to give us at least a $500 maintenance limit, we probably wouldn't do business with them, just because anymore, very little can be done for less than $300 to $500 anymore.
Yeah, just rolling the truck.
If you really want it done correctly and you want it to that repair to last long, we're going to need to have at least that $500 limit. And sometimes we can call while we're on site to get that limit increased, but more times than not, the management company has to contact the owner. So now it requires a second visit. And that's where it gets costly working with property management companies. And that's why I think you see a lot of service companies don't like working with them. Unless maybe they're a startup, right? Maybe they're going after that business and they're taking on whatever they can. But as they mature and they kind of hone in on their avatar, their ideal customer, a lot of times the property management companies may not fit that mold. So
that's super interesting. So definitely screen those property managers to fit within your mold instead of just, I'm happy to have them and send us any business you have. And then, like you say, these small tickets might turn, or their small threshold ticket limit might force a second visit on a small job. And now you got, maybe your profitability is gone. But there is still business there for you. You do find the success in there. You just had to learn that niche and who to work with and how to screen them out. Yes?
Yeah. And there's actually something interesting. There's platforms that a lot of these property management companies sign up for. I think one of them is called Net Vendor. And if you apply, and it costs money, I think it's one of them is like $120 a year. I just paid it. You become potential vendor or a vendor on this site, and then property management companies see that you've passed their background check, you are who you say you are, but they also know if you're paying this fee and you're doing all these things, you aren't going to be the cheapest, but you're going to be good for their customer. And so that's one way you can get your foot in the door with some of these companies. And if you want to be able to charge a little bit more for your service, that's an area that could work well for a service company.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to have these people referring business over to you. And earlier you talked about architects, architectural firms, right, on the high-end upscale houses, which are a little more fun because now you're involved in the design, perhaps, and looking through lots of different kinds of doors. So is that a successful venture for you also? And how do you target those people? Do you door knock, phone call, ads?
Up till now, to be honest with you, it's been mostly word of mouth. Again, I think these companies, they go through other garage door companies that have a lot of turnover, that have less experienced people installing the doors, and they do sloppy work. And eventually they find out about us, and usually through a referral from another builder or somebody, and they find out that we use things like laser levels when we're installing doors, especially on higher end homes, to make sure that just like the drywall, there's different levels of drywall finish. I would tell you there's probably different levels of garage door installs as well. I mean, you can put up a door and it will probably work okay, even if the guy only has a couple weeks of experience. But if you want it to also look like it should and not eventually fall down, you're going to want a more experienced person usually installing that door. And we know typically what the higher end folks are looking for. They want it almost looking perfect. And so we actually really like that work. We charge a little bit more for it because it does take us quite a bit more time to do it, but usually the customers don't mind that. And in terms, so most of the work that we've done with any kind of architectural firms or custom home builders is mostly who we're working with. It's come through word of mouth. It seems like on their side, it's also like our industry. It seems like it's just a small knit group, and they kind of must know each other or about each other, and so they talk.
Yeah. Maybe there's even a local trade association or something in meetings. And it's funny. It sounds like in both cases that, they've gone through the inexpensive guys who could not perform. And so they've got a little sour taste. And by the time they find their way to you, you've pretty much got them if you perform, right? It sounds like they're ready for somebody they can depend on who's reliable.
Yeah, I mean, when the owner of one of the custom home builders we work with, when he showed up on site, it's a town about an hour from here. We were doing they don't do a home that's less than $3 million, and we were doing some doors for this. And he walked in and he saw my more experienced tech using the laser level. He literally said, "I will not use anybody else."
Nice.
Were his words.
For you.
You got to show you care. I mean, I tell everybody that. You got to care. If you don't care, then why are you even here? Why are you doing this? If you take pride in what you're doing, it's just so much more fun. And who doesn't want to hear a response like that from some guy that does custom $3 million homes? And that's just got, as a technician,
right?
That's just got to make your day,
100%. Yeah. Take pride in the work. Do it great, and make your life easier. Way back when, I don't remember, my dad gave me a book when I graduated high school called Quality is Free. And I did an episode on it. I can't remember what number it was. And basically it was saying, you do an awesome job with the best tools, best service, the best care, the best interaction with the customer possible. And that is actually the cheapest way to do the business, because any other way, and maybe you don't get referrals, you don't get reviews, you don't get repeat business. They don't refer you out to other people, on and on and on. So do it the best you possibly can. It'll be the cheapest way to run your business and the most successful way to get, all that other stuff, repeat, referrals, reviews, testimonials, etc. Awesome stuff, Chris. You've been great. How can, if people are listening, they want to contact you, look for a job or whatever have you, hire you to do some work for them? What's the best way? What's your website, and how can people reach you if they want to?
So website, you can just go to callgatorgarage.com, which will take you to gatorgaragedoorrepair.com. You can also email me, Chris, CHRIS, at callgatorgarage.com. And one of the things about me is I love to help. So as long as I have some time and you have some questions, unlike a lot of my competitors, I want to be friends with our competition out here. So even if you're a competitor, reach out. I love to talk shop, and I love to learn, and I love to teach. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I could feel it. And like we said earlier, it's a world of abundance. There's plenty of business out there for everyone. Chris, I'm not the best interviewer in the world. After 125 episodes, I'm just starting to feel a little bit comfortable. Anything that you would have liked to have talked about that I did not ask or touch on at all? Anything or any closing words you'd like to say out there?
No, I love your demeanor. I think you're really good at this. I felt really comfortable the entire time.
Thank you. Not me. I'm sweating. Look.
If I had any parting words, just do what you love.
Do what you love. I like it. Follow your bliss. Chris, you're awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks to our listeners out there for time and attention. I'm sure there was some golden nuggets in there that made it worth it for you. We appreciate your time. Chris, and thank you, sir.
You bet. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks to our listeners out there for sharing their time and attention with us. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, subscribe to our podcast so you get notified of future episodes. Feel free to share this one on your social channels. Good luck out there and create a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast. To power up your home service business, for show notes, visit battleplanmarketing.com/podcast. If you enjoyed our show, please share it on social. Until next time.